Memories. So when those two were dating, we were in California. David was my friend. He moved out to Nashville. The company he worked for, he was transferred out to Nashville, and they met, and they dated They courted for 2 years. They never kissed. Their first kiss was at the altar. And I was standing right there. I'm like, kiss it there, go ahead. That was a moment. I remember that. You know, I want to share something before Angie comes. Angie's going to come, and then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to have a final hour and a half, whatever the Lord wants to do, 2 hours with Trina, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be the most action-packed part of the day. I'm pretty sure. I believe that. Y'all, you know, people like Marty and others say that you are special. And you are more than special. You are faithful. But more than that, you are interested. You are curious. You want to know more. Yeah. Very few people, and I've been in big churches, folks. I'm from California. You go to Saddleback, there's 3,000 people in the room, you know, and that's on a bad day. People are interested on Sunday morning. They come in for their hour. They get that hour in. You know, on Sunday morning, I go over to McDonald's and I treat myself with an Egg McMuffin and a potato cake thing. I try only to do that. I love that. I try to do it once a week. So I go, oh boy, it's Sunday. I get to go get an Egg McMuffin. Well, today it was sort of like Sunday because I normally don't wake up early. So on Sunday, I drive up. Boom, there's nobody there. I go right through the line. There's nobody waiting. Saturday morning, I go there, line out to the road. But everybody's a Christian. 85% of Americans are Christian. You're probably watching my Facebook right now. You're saying, what's this guy talking about? You know, folks, there are so many indicators that people really, they're just not that interested. And that's really sad. Does that mean that they're not going to heaven? I don't think so. We have this misnomer, this term, carnal Christian. I'm not sure I agree with that. But many theologians do believe that the four soils, that at least two of them, the person was saved. You know, some people say even 3 of them, the person was saved, right? But you look out on the freeway on Sunday morning, there's no cars. But on Saturday, it's packed. You know, where's all the Christians? Did they get transported to church by Scotty and the Starship Enterprise? You know, y'all are special because you're here and you're interested. And that's why Jesus taught with parables. He wanted to convey something to the people that would say, what does that mean? So y'all are special. Y'all are special. So enjoy the fact, I was hoping there'd be more folks here, but enjoy the fact that you're here, you're curious, you're interested, you're special.
Amen.
Amen. So it's a blessing. Amen. So now Angie Westmoreland is going to come. Angie. And do you want the podium?
I would like something to lay my paper on.
You want okay. Angie and Rusty have been with us a couple of years now. They're wonderful people, obviously.
Y'all been with us 2 years yet? Just about 2 years. Oh my goodness.
They've helped a lot on our praise team, more than I could say. And Rusty is our new associate pastor, her husband. I've asked Angie to share with us, and so, ma'am, The floor is yours.
I want to thank you guys, especially at first off, for being here today. It has been a wonderful day, especially with all of us being cooped up, I guess you should say, for a year. It's been a wonderful day. And the theme of each person's message has been, even though they're different, they've been along the same lines. And I was listening thinking, oh man, there we go. I got that. Yeah, I got that. So, with all that being said, again, thank you for being here. Most of you know who I am. And as he said, I'm Angela Westmoreland, born and raised about a block down the road. I mean, I could go out here in the parking lot and throw a rock to my house where I was when I was a kid. So I'm just a quiet mom from West Virginia. My husband and I have been married for almost 41 years. So, all right, let's get started here. I want to tell a story, first off. There's two women in a small church, a lot like this. Every Sunday, the blessings would fall. The Holy Spirit would come, and the one woman would just take off running around the sanctuary. She would get so blessed and so excited. And she just couldn't stand it. She passed her best friend, sitting on the front row, perfectly silent, with her head down. Sunday after Sunday, this would happen, and finally, one Sunday, she said, I can't stand it anymore. They're best friends. She said, you know, Annie, why, if you felt what I could feel right now, you couldn't sit still. And Mary would raise her head up and look at her, and she goes, if you felt what I could feel right now, you couldn't stand still. You couldn't move. You wouldn't be able to move. Get my tongue untangled. Were either one of them wrong or either one of them right? Both of them were right. God moves on each one of us differently, different times. Sometimes there is the wow, the power, it's all powerful, but it's just that overwhelming. You gotta, just gotta run. But there's the other times where it's quiet blessing. That's what I want to talk a little bit about today, is the quiet blessing. Today in life, things are so noisy. She was talking about the different smells. I'm going to go with the noise. We hear all kinds of things. And I want to thank all the vendors that was here today too. We get so busy in our lives. We're either raising kids, doing business, taking care of business, raising our children, taking care of maybe parents. So I just got through taking care of my mother. My sister and I did. We go through our day from the moment we raise our head up off the pillow till even after we go and put our head on the pillow. We're still processing either the things that we didn't get done that day, the things we still should have gotten done that day, what all was done that day, and what needs to be done the next day. I'm really bad about that. I lay there and I'll sit there and Rusty says I can fall asleep at a drop of a hat, but still in my head there's all these things going, and we're all the same. We have so many things going in our lives, and the noise of life kind of sometimes takes over. I want to read some little tidbits here. We don't realize how much noise is around us. Basic conversation in decibels is 60 dBA, or decibels. An electric toothbrush, 50 to 60. Your washing machine, if it's a good one, is 50 to 75. A school dance, 100. This is the one that really got me, is a noisy squeaky toy. Now my kids are not past the squeaky toys, but I've got dogs. And they have squeaky toys. 135 decibels.
That hurts your ears.
Yeah, I mean it's deafening. A large office, 50. Your breath, 10. A gentle whisper is 30. It's proven that if you're exposed to 85 decibels constantly, it will cause hearing loss. And just a side note, Greenbank, West Virginia is known as the National Radio Quiet Zone. Some of the most sensitive sound detective instruments in the world are found there. People who live there lead quiet lives. They avoid honking their cars, playing loud noise, riding noisy motorcycles, and all those kind of things. They are listening to the Milky Way to hear a voice. We got them beat. Yeah. But what about our average day? Each one of us have a different day. Like I said, I have 3 kids. They were 17 months apart. They're all grown now. I've homeschooled my kids, so they were always around the house. With the homeschooling, I always took in kids sometimes and babysat. So you can imagine what the noise level was in my house. One particularly frustrating day, we'll say, the kids kept going, Mom, Mom this, Mom that. And I finally decided, I set them down and said, I changed my name. When you think of my name, I will answer you, but not until then. So they battered around all the rest of the afternoon trying to come up with my name. So finally I said, okay, I'm going to go get in the shower, we'll get ready for church. I said, now please don't kill each other. I'll be out in a few minutes. I hear a knock at the door. What? Dad? Said, what? Just checking. Dad just left a few minutes ago, by the way. That was my smart aleck son, and now he has kids of his own. Right. He calls me the other day and says, Mom, he said, I really want to say I'm sorry for all the things I put you through. Then he sends me a text message of all of his kids standing in a box saying, I'm mailing them to you. Needless to say, what goes around, they watch more than what we think. We have to listen to God. We have quiet time that we have to take for ourselves. Yes. I was trying to take a little extra quiet time in the shower. That did not quite work. And we do that. We will try to find a little extra time maybe in the shower or a little extra time at the grocery store just to have a little bit of quiet time. But when is your quiet time with God? 1 Kings 19, 11 through 13. You have to read the whole story. There's a lot to it, but basically Elijah was running for his life. He knew he was cooked. It's been a bad deal. We'll just kind of shorten it that way. He says this. The Lord said, this is Elijah 1 Kings 19, 11 through 13, excuse me. The Lord said, go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, and the Lord will pass by. Then a great powerful wind tore through the mountains. It shattered the rocks before the Lord, but the Lord was not the wind. After the wind was an earthquake, but the Lord was not the earthquake. After the earthquake came the fire. The Lord wasn't in the fire. After the fire came a gentle whisper. When Elijah heard it, he pulled a cloak over his face and went out and stood out the mouth of the cave. God has a message for each one of us. You may say, I'm a stay-at-home mom. You may not be out working around other people, but everything is important. A stay-at-home mom is very important too. Little Johnny just cut off Penny's hair, or the dog has tore up the sofa. Stop. Listen. God has a voice. He's speaking in your ear. He's telling you how to react. Mm-hmm. I know we want to scream, we want to cry, we want to yell. Sometimes we have to do that in a pillow just to kind of vent, maybe. But take a minute, stop, breathe, react the way God wants us to react. actions are reactive, or not reactive, are reactive, excuse me, he is proactive. We don't see things coming. We walked in the door and saw Penny's hair on the floor. And, oh well, let's face it, hair grows back, but that's not our first reaction. It's like, what did you just do? He knew Johnny was going to cut Penny's hair off. He knew Fido was going to tear up your sofa. Before it happened, we can buy slip covers for the couch. It's all going to be okay. What am I saying? Everything, let me get away from everything as a rule the roost. Get my tongue untangled. You can see this is not my wheelhouse. There's a flip side to every coin. We see much of it that lately. We have a tendency to let the kids rule the roost. We don't want to let them get away with everything. But do step back and take a minute. Look back at what's going on and saying, it's okay, everything's okay. It is okay. But there is a yes, there is a no, there is a right, there is a wrong. So we have to draw that line. And unfortunately, if you look around, sometimes these kids don't know what no means and what yes means. It's hard.
Yeah.
There's a righteous anger, and it does not cause division. It does not cause hurt. Even if we have to prove that we're right, that's not the right kind of righteous anger. It's not righteous anger. That's just, I just want to show you that I was right all along. Don't do that. Righteous anger edifies. It builds up. It doesn't tear down. It strengthens us. When we're at our weakest, that's when it helps us. James 1:19 through 20. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. Become human anger, because human anger does not produce righteousness that God desires. Again, I say, take a breath. Listen to what God's saying. Like I said, hair grows back. Couch covers there's always a brighter side, if I can say it that way. Maybe that's not the right way, but God has a purpose for every action we have, and that's, again, build up and edify. Like I said, my smarty pants called me the other day and said he wanted to send me the kids. You think sometimes, oh well, I really messed up. And I was 17 when Rusty and I got married. Did I do things right? My kids would be the first to tell you no. But I did what I could do. I've made mistakes. Yes, we all make mistakes. We just have to learn from our mistakes. God will tell us if we will be quiet and listen. No matter what you're dealing with, whether it's a 2-year-old, an employee, a neighbor, or a perfect stranger, your actions speak louder than words. Like I said, I know I'm not a perfect mom. We learned a lot being moms. Now we're grandmas. I'm sure there's a lot of grandmas in the room. I know I am. So that's when I get to spoil them and say, now remember what you said. Elijah heard the voice. He pulled the cloak over his face because he was humbled. He felt the redemptive power, the redemptive love of God. He felt the power and he carried it with him. He knew what God was speaking in that little quiet voice. He stopped to listen. There's a lot to be said about the proverbial count to 10. And like I said, my husband and I have been married for almost 41 years. And he knows when he walks in the door and I am slamming kitchen cabinets and cleaning, and he knows to step back for a minute and give me a minute because something's got me upset. Whether it's something he's done. But that's the way I deal with it for me. That's my proverbial count to 10, I guess. I have a tendency to be quiet. Like I said, if I have to clean, I work my frustrations out, I guess, more than anything else. I try to figure out how I need to approach the situation. I might be the one that's wrong. I might be the one that's totally the one that caused the problem. It might not be him. I'm using him as an excuse because he just. But it may be a complete misunderstanding. You know, you may have one person looked at a situation this way and somebody else looked at it the other way, and it's like, wait a minute, stop and think this thing through. You guys just sit down and talk for a second, because you may have been on the same page, you just came at it a different way and didn't hear the same words. So I have a tendency to stop, work through it in my head for a minute, and then it's like, okay, all right, now let's sit down and talk this out. Here's where I'm at. Another really big thing is, let's say you had a fight 6 months ago. Let's say he went fishing and forgot to pick you up from work. I don't know, I'm just throwing. Okay, you had that argument and you worked that thing through. Today you had an argument about he left the refrigerator door open. You know, again, I'm just throwing things out. Don't pull the fishing trip in.
Right.
Why would we do that? We just we do that to kind of fuel. We think we're fueling our side of the situation, but really and truly, think about this. Okay, God's standing in front of us. We have sinned today. We did something today, and we said, "Oh man, Lord, forgive me." And He looks at us and says, "Okay, I'll forgive you. That's okay. We'll get through this. But you know what? I got this deck of cards here. And in this deck has got every sin that you've committed throughout your life. I'm going to pull this one out of the deck." What would we do if God did that to us? He doesn't. He said it's finished. It's done. His forgiveness is put behind us. So, yes, we're going to have disagreements with people in general. We're human beings. You put two dogs together and they're going to have disagreements. You know, it's just the way of life. Don't drag other things in, and take a breath. Stop. Listen to what God says, and let's approach it and build each other up. Don't tear each other down. My motto is the past is your perching point or your launching point. Now think about that for a second. Are you going to perch on past grievances? Or are we going to launch off of them, learn from them, keep moving? You know, if you sit on something long enough, it's going to eat at you. Don't let it do that. Okay, so what about when you're out? What about when you went to the McDonald's? Somebody, do you hear that little voice saying, you know, why don't you pay for the person behind you? May not seem like much, but maybe God's telling you to pay for the person behind you because they just ordered and they're coming up to the window and they didn't realize they didn't have the money to pay for it themselves. Maybe that's why God's telling you to do that. Maybe somebody just needs to hear that somebody in front of them cares. What about loading the groceries? Have you ever had somebody say, that little small voice in your back of your head say, would you walk over there and help them put their groceries in their car? The other day, it was that cold, snowy, just half snow, half rain. And I saw a woman walking into, I can still call it Foodland, parking lot down here. Piggly Wiggly. Sorry, Jim. But we saw her walking in, and I looked at Rusty and I said, you know, if she's checking out at the same time we are, we need to give her a ride. It was just awful, the weather was. Lo and behold, we went and got our groceries. She's on one aisle and we're on our other aisle. And I look over at her and I said, why don't you let us give you a ride home? I saw you walk here. And she looked at me and she goes, no, I'm okay. But this was an older lady and maybe she just needed the exercise. But God told me to ask her if she wanted to ride. She didn't take the ride, but she knew somebody cared enough to offer it to her that day.
Yeah.
And maybe she would have. I mean, it just listen to that voice. Sometimes that little quiet voice in the back of your head is not just your imagination. We have a tendency to brush that off. It's God speaking to us. Hebrews 13:12. Do not forget to show hospitality to strangers. For by doing so, some people have shown hospitalities to angels without knowing it.
Yep. Right. Amen.
Have you ever thought about that? How do we get to know God's voice? Psalms 46:10. He says, be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Bible is a roadmap again, and we've heard this theme throughout the day. The Bible's our roadmap. It's the voice of God. John 10:27, my sheep listen to my voice. I know them and they follow me. Do you know God's voice? Just listen. There's so many ways of reading the Bible nowadays, and I asked Kara here in a minute to read a section of scripture for me, but I have some reading issues, so sometimes it's hard for me to sit down and read. Just sit down and pick up the Bible and read. We have so many ways now, we have no excuse whatsoever. It's on your tablet, it's on your phone, you can get it on CD. You know, we've got a church app. Our church app has the Bible that you can read it. Because I have some reading issues, I like to push the button and let it read it for me. I can be doing dishes and just turn it loose and let it go. We have no excuse anymore. We can get the Bible so many different ways. So take time to read and listen to the Bible if that's your problem. You know, like I said, I have some reading issues, so sometimes it's easier for me. Kara, would you mind reading for me this section, and then Kara's going to read Proverbs 31:10-31.
Who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far above rubies. The heart of her husband safely trusts in her, so he will not lack for gain. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and willingly works with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She also rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and a portion for her maidservants. She considers a field and buys it. From her profits she plants a vineyard. She girds herself with strength and strengthens her arms. She perceives that her merchandise is good, and her lamp does not go out by night. She stretches out her hands to the staff, and her hands hold the spindle. She extends her hands to the poor. Yes, she reaches out her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of snow for her household, for all her household is clothed with scarlet. She makes tapestry for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the gates. When he sits among the elders of the land, she makes linen garments and sells them, and supplies sashes for the merchants. Strength and honor are her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness. She watches over the ways of her household, and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many daughters have done well, but you excel them all. Charm is deceitful, and beauty is passing, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the feast.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
Of course, this was written in a very different time, very different era. But it's still very, very, very true today. She shops for wool and flax. Well, we're always cutting coupons, trying to find a good bargain. Same thing. She's saying here that she watches what she spends. She's looking out for her family that way. She speaks with wisdom. Again, listen. Stop. Listen before you speak. Just take a minute. She makes coverings for her bed. Well, probably a lot of them. Some crochet, some quilt. I know she makes amazing quilts. We don't make a lot of bedding for our beds anymore, but I can guarantee you, if there's a snow day, you know that you've got blankets on the kids' beds. You got blankets maybe on the couches ready for them to cuddle up in when they get home from school with something warm to drink maybe. Same difference. Back then, they didn't have a Walmart, a Wally World. By golly, you make sure your kids are warm. Same difference. She provides food for her family. All right, well, nowadays, like I said, a lot of you have businesses, you have kids in soccer, you have things going on, taking care of parents. I bet you've got that Grubhub app on your phone. I know I have that and Instacart. I like that at shop through the grocery store. I think all of us is getting to the point where we do that a lot. What am I saying? What's my point? Stop. Take a breath. You go, girl. You got this. You got it. We beat ourselves up and think, well, I can't do all these things in Proverbs 31. Yes, that is God speaking to us. That's what I'm talking about. He has a message for us. There's nuggets like this all through. He's telling us, just take care of the family. Take care of the people around you. Love others. And you'll be loved too. I mean, God loves us. We've been so blessed. I don't know how to describe it. God loves us so much that He gave His only begotten Son. Don't beat yourself up. This is an overview. Like I said, look at it in a different light. Go home and read this and think about this. Say, well, I do. I try to speak with wisdom. I do take care of the household affairs. I do pay the bills. That's all this is saying. God's given us a little roadmap. Be a woman willing to listen, to take a breath and ask God before we react. A strong woman of God, first for ourselves, then for our families. What should we do? Number one, take time to talk to God. We can get on the phone and talk to our best friends sometimes for hours. Just, God's our best friend. Hey, guess what? I'm having some issues today. Or thank you. I wasn't expecting that check in the mail today. Wow. Take a minute. Talk to him. He's a friend. Just talk to him like a friend. You'll have to have flowery words. Because you can see I don't have flowery words. Number 2, listen. Shut up for a minute. Stop complaining. Listen. What is God saying? What's He got lined up for you? He has something for us, but sometimes we just got to turn the TV down, turn the radio down, turn the volume down in our house, and listen for a second. Just because we listen also doesn't mean we heard. That sometimes is easy for me to do. I'll say, okay, I've done it before. It's like, okay, well, for instance, a woman, God told me to offer her a ride. I could have just ignored it. I don't know what happened after that, but I listened. And that's what all He, just listen. What's He have to say? Don't put yourself in danger. But listen to what He has to say and act on it. Make sure you hear Him. Are you willing to act on what He has to say? 4, read our Bibles. Again, this is our roadmap. There's all kinds of things in here that tells us just little things on how to love each other, how to love our children, how not to let them get away with murder, but to correct them in a godly, build-up manner. How do you know God's voice? I'm sure most of us here in this room are Christians. We've been here all day long, and I thank you so much. It's been a wonderful day. And I want to thank the pastor for putting this together for us. This has been awesome. But how do you know God's voice? We got to know Him first. All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Romans 3:23. And the wages of sin are death. For God's love is eternal. He died on the cross for each and every one of us. He sacrificed more than we could ever imagine, so that way we could know Him and know Him personally. That's what He wants. Confess with our mouth that Jesus Christ is Lord. Declare Jesus is Lord, and He will not forsake you. He's right here for us. And I know this probably wasn't a full 30 minutes, but my point to this is we've all got this, girls. We got it. Just listen. Just take a breath. Slow down for a second. What does God have to say for each and every one of us? And then we can go from there. All right? Well, thank you.
Thank you, Ange.
Thank you. I don't know. I think we're going to take another quick break.
I think so, yeah.
So, do you want to do some prizes
I can.
before we go?